Aloha Oddlyites, it's time for another video of me ranting at my webcam while a slideshow runs. And by that, I mean it's time for the last set of power rankings before the season truly kicks off with an HCS online qualifier tournament this weekend. And as with the last time, I'm listing my criteria for these rankings so you have a good idea why I put teams where I put them. While priority goes to online tournament performance and scrims, I'm also going to be including ladder placings and results uh, in ladder matches, and my own biased personal opinions in these power rankings. So I'm going to go ahead and stress I will absolutely be biased in these rankings because these teams have a history. Everyone has their own historical performances, player wise, team wise, attitude wise. I look at team chemistry and priority positions and how players work together overall, and I include that in how I project the team is going to perform. But I am still giving more weight to online tournaments and scrim performances over the actual my opinions and bias. And the first category in these power rankings I'm going to put are ladder teams to watch. These aren't teams that I think are really solidified in a ranking. I don't even think some of these teams will get top 16 as it is right now. But these are teams that are really just grinding the hell out of the ladder, and they're either winning a lot or they've got a high win rate. Like Nighthawks, they've been 28-2. Right now they have two open spaces, but Omega and Swipa are 28-2 in the ladder. That's really impressive. That's above a 90% win rate. Um, Vanquish, same thing. They've won one more and lost one more. That's Gun Havoc, Ideas, Ninja Arts, and 2 Rampant. I don't actually know anything about these players. I'm not going to pretend to know, but you look at that record and you think, wow, these guys are really putting in work, and they're doing well. I don't know who they've played on the ladders. There's a good chance they're not posting matches and just constantly looking for cupcakes to play against, and that's how they're getting their wins. But you do what you can to get the ladder wins, and it's working out for them. Kinetic, uh, we've seen them under the Fatal Ambition and Vex Gaming monikers. Right now they're Kinetic Gaming. It's Burton, Blaze. They've picked up Jesse Unleashed and Swiftkill in place of some of the other players they've been running with, but Blaze and Burton finished second at Daytona with Fatal Ambition, so even offline tournaments they've shown up to be pretty well, even though it was a release tournament. No one had really learned the game, but these guys still grinding, still putting in work, and they're way up there on the ladder. They've got 42 wins. That's plenty of points to get a decent seed so they can get as far into a bracket in the upcoming online tournament as they can. So they're a team to really look out for. And as I've said in the past, I think Blaze is one of the players with the most potential in the game to just really show up big. He knows how to win. He knows how to study a game and really learn. Up next is Without Warning. They're 28-4, another fantastic win rate. This is Twitch A, Confliction, and Bocce Hawk, and they have one space left on their roster. I'm not sure who the fourth was and who they had been running with, but I mean, you see how well they've been doing on the ladder. Maybe you're an AM player watching this. So you're like, hey, maybe I should try to reach out to those guys, see if I can get my chance to keep them moving forward. Perseverance. This was Team Dank previously. I'm not sure why their team name has changed, but this is Crossfade, VTech. These guys have been around forever, constantly playing Halo. You can see they're still doing that, still putting in all the work. I think this is really a more casual team than it is a hardcore, wanting to go for the millions of dollars prize pool. But still, they have 44 wins on the ladder. They're way up there in points, and that's big. They're relevant as far as power rankings go. On the bottom, I have Reality Check. They have the most wins, I believe, of any ladder team, but they also only have a 70-something% win rate, so they're not doing fantastic. They just lost Domi and whoever the other player they were running with was. I apologize for not knowing this. I should know Reality Check's roster. But the Sudeths have a history of constantly picking up good talent and just helping that talent become relevant. they're always they've always had a fantastic eye for up and coming players. Like whether you want to give them credit for their own performances or not, the Suddaths are fantastic talent scouts, and I expect them to continue to scout out good talent throughout Halo 5. And right now they have 66 wins on the ladder, so they're technically the number one seed in the game. But as far as power rankings go, they're not that strong or relevant. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide because this is all the teams we have. And but before I go through this, I'm going to talk a little bit about just a reminder that these power rankings are just an opinion. They are not rigid at all. I'm going to go back to the slide. I think I got ahead of myself here in terms of what I was trying to say. These are the teams that aren't quite top six. As last time I ranked the top six, I didn't rank everyone. These teams I don't really have a good gauge of just yet. Crowd pleasers, the team name has been doing fantastically, but right now only one player on that roster from their ladder roster is from the crowd pleasers roster that has been showing up in online tournaments and just dominating ladders and scrims. Well, dominating, I say, except for when they play the top four, which we'll get to. But Nemesis is the only player on that roster still going. Straight Sick and Goofy have joined after being booted from Allegiance, so to speak. And Munoz from Elevate is now running with Crowd Pleasers just to try to keep himself on a team because after Suspector and Stellar abandoned ship, Randa has been running games with Winter Fox. So that leaves Munoz without a team. He's looking at Crowd Pleasers, it appears. So maybe that Crowd Pleasers roster will soon be Elevate. We don't know. But in the meantime, I'm hesitant to put Crowd Pleasers higher than the close but not quite category. I would have had them at number 6 if they still had their roster. Moving on to Optic, they haven't been doing well in scrims. They haven't been doing well in online tournaments. But looking at the results of the games individually, Optic are definitely improving. They're moving up. These are veteran players that know how to handle teamwork, except for Stellar. He's new. I think he's a little bit too focused on stats and getting kills over how to play objective, but being with Flame Sword and Assault, that can change in a heartbeat. These guys have been taking games off. They've been taking games off the top teams when they scrim. They haven't really been showing up series-wise, and they've been getting staked quite a bit in Slayer, but they aren't dead in the water just yet, and they're definitely improving, so don't count out Optic just yet. They have what's necessary to become good. They just haven't gotten good yet. Next, I'm going to talk about Believe the Hype. This was a mystery team running together at first. It was Hysteria, Cloud, Spartan, and Commonly all on alternate tags to avoid like their teammates thinking they're shading on them or whatever. Commonly leaving crowd pleasers for this roster from what we've seen so far. Commonly has been really strong online. I think he's been a priority 1 player. He's been taking the power weapons and whatnot. And the thing about this roster is every one of those players can just go off at any time. Hysteria, well, we all know Landsteria, dominant player in terms of slaying power. Cloud, dominant player in terms of slaying power. Hasn't been as strong in Halo 5 so far. I think he will go off now that Forge is existing and we can get an Octagon because Cloud is the type of player who will play Octagon all day until his shot is just absolute fire. Spartan is the aggressive player they need with this roster, and his communication is really strong. So I think Believe the Hype will. I think they have the potential to crack this top 6 that I have coming up after this slide. But Believe the Hype, I want to rank them higher based off their potential, but they haven't shown enough results yet for me to actually do anything. They did really well in a long scrim against Evil Geniuses, but it looked like a certain couple of EG players weren't playing at the top of their game that night. So I'm putting an asterisk on that scrim result where the scrim was almost even. It was like 16 to 13 or something along those lines, 15 to 12. I'm not positive what the exact result was, but I believe the hype looked like they were clicking well together, and that's going to be important in the coming days as they play more. Um, Allegiance, I feel like they've downgraded as far as their roster goes. I know Goofy was struggling really hard, but I think his play style helps make players like Straight Sick and L Town look better than they actually are. I'm I don't think Straight Sick is bad at all. I don't think he really deserved to be kicked from that roster, but Kratos and Suspector were definitely looking good on Crowd Pleasers and Elevate, respectively. I think Suspector is a little inflated right now by how selflessly Randa and Munoz were playing for Elevate. I think it made both Suspector and Stellar look a little bit better. Um, but as far as the Allegiance roster goes, I don't think they're as good as they were before. And I think now that other teams have really sort of figured themselves out, Allegiance are going to keep trending downward in the rankings. I think they'll stay ahead of all the ladder teams I stressed before. So they're still like definite top 10, but I think they should definitely be aware that there is a chance they won't get top 8 with this current roster unless they put in a ton of work. But next, I'm going to move on and stress these power rankings are constantly changing. They only are here to give you a vague idea of my opinion of how teams' performances and future potential are. These are estimates. They are not absolutes. So if you think your team or you think the team you're a fan of should be higher up on here, just remember this is my opinion based off estimates and performances and just not a rigid set. So we're going to move on to the number 6 team. This is Noble Esports for me right now. Contra, Predevinator, Rain, and Penguin. And so far, this team has looked fantastic on the ladders. They're like 58-3 or something along those lines. 53-5. I'm not positive. I had it a minute ago. They're 58-5. I just double checked. They've been winning so many ladder matches, even taking ladder matches over top teams. I think they've beaten both Liquid and Envy. And although Envy beat them 100-0 on a Strongholds in that set, it was Strongholds Coliseum, which everyone's kind of like, does that one really count? Because like the territories are all so close together. But as far as scrims go, they haven't really been scrimming. I think Devin has been having internet issues. It's been holding them back. I don't really know anything about Rain or Penguin, but Devin is like high on my list in terms of players to watch as breakout players in the coming season. Not breakout the game type, breakout as in, oh, where'd this guy come from? He's amazing. He constantly finished top 8 in H2A with various rosters, and even though he didn't play much in Season 2, he was just constantly keeping rosters in the top 8, and I think that's not to be overrated or underrated at all. He needs to be recognized for his abilities. I think he may have attitude issues based off some comments from other pros when I've talked about him, but so is Contra in terms of how other people have viewed him. I haven't talked to Contra personally, so this is not like an insult toward Contra. It's just other people's opinions of him have been in this light, so there's a chance that there may be like attitude issues on this team. But as far as talent goes, they've been winning Slayers online, and Slayers are like a third of the game. So if their objective can keep up with their Slayers, they're going to really be a force to reckon with. And as far as their ladder performance goes, they're only behind Reality Check in points, and they have a 92% win rate. So they are really strong, and no one should underestimate them. I'm going to move on to team number 5. We're looking at Winter Fox right now. Ryanoob, Shooter, Arcanum, and Randa. They basically just changed out Nated for Shooter in terms of the off-season roster changes. And they haven't looked great in scrims. They've looked like they've really struggled over the early stages of Halo 5, but the Game Battles tournament this past weekend and the Beyond tournament on Tuesday, they finished in the finals for both of them. They faced off against EG and lost in the game battles finals, and they went 3-2. Or they lost 3-2 from Envy in the Beyond finals. But overall, this team, they've not looked strong in scrims, but they've shown up in tournaments. So that may just be like they're half-assing scrims to really learn what other teams are doing, or they're pushing their limits and finding out what they can't do, and then avoiding doing that in scrims, or avoiding doing that in tournaments rather. So they're a team to really acknowledge that they are moving up right now. They are not like a solid fifth place. If they keep performing in tournaments like they have been, they could easily jump up to top three. I'm going to emphasize Randa's contribution to this team because, like, Elevate looked really strong with Randa on it. I don't think Randa actually plays that well based off watching him, but every team he's been on has looked a lot better than I would have projected them to be. So Randa's obviously doing something right in game to constantly be making his teams look this good. Moving on to the next set, we are looking at Team Liquid. They've fallen from number 1 to number 4 in my power rankings with Ninja, Ace, Chig, Unlegit. Some of that was due to having to take a week off of practice with Chig moving across country. He ran into some inclement weather and had his movement slowed down. They haven't been dominating scrims. They haven't been winning any tournaments lately. They got 4th in the Team Beyond tournament. I don't think they played in the game battles one earlier this week because someone was out of town or something. I think it was because Ninja was in San Diego for an H1Z1 event. Other than that, the team has definitely, in the last few nights, improved their work ethic as far as improvement goes. Ace is stepping up to be a vocal leader of the team. Unlegit has been really impressive when the team is winning. He's been quiet when they've been losing. I think the key for Liquid to move up is for Unlegit to just shed the identity of being a rookie player and just treat himself like he's a veteran and just speak up when he thinks something's... Because when Liquid have been winning tournaments, it's been when Unlegit has been talking the most. I think right now, Liquid are... They're hovering to where they and Winter Fox will probably be on even power levels, but I think Liquid are going to improve rapidly in the coming weeks. There might be an announcement why I think that soon, but as far as that goes, that's all I'm going to say about Liquid for now. I'm going to move on to the number 3 seed and the most recent tournament winner, Team Beyond's tournament, Envy won. I don't have them ahead of either of the next 2 teams because of scrim results and because one of the teams in the tournament that's ahead of them didn't have their full roster. But Envy are a team with a lot of attitude toward improving right now. They're constantly talking about how to get better in scrims, how to handle situations better, how to set up better, how to open better. They're a team that will go back and watch VODs of other players or themselves in order to improve, so that's really important towards getting better at the game. There's been some tension that you've heard in Heinz's stream between Miquin and APG, and I think that may be an X factor in terms of the long-term performance of this team. I think as long as Heinz and Pistola are on the team, they'll keep improving. Overall, this team has great natural chemistry in terms of play style, so I think they're going to stay strong. I don't know if they're going to stay top 3, stay top 4, if they'll move up, they'll move down. I'm not positive on that. It's all going to shake out in the coming weeks. And I'm actually going to stop for a second and stress just how good Heinz is. Heinz, I think, in my opinion, is the best player on that team. His shot is fantastic, especially long range. Close range, he gets a little shakier, but long range shots, he doesn't miss. He's been actually the one taking sniper for Envy in some of their games recently, and he knows what to do with it. He's like, people think Heinz is a support player. He is an extremely versatile player, and he's actually a really good slayer when he tries to be. So far, he's actually been kind of doing whatever. He's just a really good player, and a large part of why that team is as successful as they are right now. Even when Pistola was slow to adapt to the game at the start, Hines was just constantly. And he also has the best handle of the slide boosting so far. Like, he's the one constantly abusing that mechanic over the course of Envy's scrims and matches. Like, you see him on Plaza and Coliseum just knowing how to use that mechanic flawlessly. Like, he's got it like almost automatic at this point, and other players are going to have to catch up to him in terms of how they use the movement mechanics. Moving on to number 2, they're still not quite at number 1 despite everything they've done in the past. Uh, their scrim results are the only reason I'm holding them back right now. They are just neck and neck with CLG. They might be better than CLG right now overall, but as far as how CLG has looked against other teams compared to how EG's looked against other teams, CLG has been more dominant, so I have them at number 2. They're still like the best all-around team in terms of how they work together, how their attitudes are most of the time. They're the only team that's really pushed CLG really hard in scrims, especially in long scrims. The more CLG plays, the more they tend to win. The one thing that held them back this past weekend in the Beyond tournament, Lunchbox was busy working because he is a career man with a life and a wife and a job. And so they had replaced him with Cloud for the Beyond tournament, and they ended up meeting up with CLG, and CLG beat EG with Cloud. Not a great barometer for power level, because again, Lunchbox is a key part of Evil Genius's communication, gameplay. Like, his playstyle is so important for their ability to win. So them not having Lunchbox was a big part of their struggle. But I think they are still the team to beat. I just have them at number 2 based off performance right now. And I'm going to move on to the last team because this video is running kind of long, longer than I expected. And that's, of course, CLG. CLG are dominating mostly since picking up Frosty over Cloud. I don't think dropping Cloud was I don't think Cloud was necessarily the problem with that team, but there's no question Frosty has been playing better than Cloud, and CLG with Frosty have been just absolutely amazing so far. They almost don't lose flag games ever. Obviously, there's an exception to that since they lost to Winter Fox recently, but as far as how CLG has been playing, in flag games, they are really strong. They get off the break super fast. They get a capture almost within a minute 30 on every game that I've been watching them lately. They've got amazing slaying power between Snakebite, Royal 2, Frosty, and of course Ogre 2. I always harp on him for zoning so amazingly. Like, he knows exactly where to be to get shots on someone's side or to force them to check a corner that he may not actually be in because he's always in that corner anyway. So you turn and look to see that corner. He's not there this time. You're getting shot from the angle that you're actually supposed to be looking at because you thought, oh, he's going to be in this corner. But he's... So CLG have been looking really strong. Not much to talk about with them. Snakebite, I think, statistically the strongest player in scrims and tournaments so far in Halo 5. If you check Tormented stats, he's been doing great work on the Beyond forums, by the way. Constantly keeping track of scrims with a really good online database. But that's going to be it for what to talk about with this video. So thank you for watching. If you disagree with some of my rankings, feel free to post in the comments section. Tweet at me at TiberiusAudley. I'm going to give a shout out to slidescarnival.com because they're the ones that I got this slideshow layout from. Yeah, I really liked it. It looked like a chalkboard, so to speak. But that's going to close out this video, and until next time, aloha!